I'm Harry Watt, NC State Wood Products Extension, and I work in sawmills, furniture, cabinets, and millwork. I live in Statesville, North Carolina, which is western North Carolina, and I work off of grant money. And this project here that's financing us to be here is a grant project through the Wood Education Center. We also have a sponsor in sawmill woodlot management that helps us get the word out and articles and so forth. And the Maryland Extension Service, John Kays, is our host here for the facility today. And they've done a lot of work, just John and his staff, and we're very happy to be here and to promote firewood. So again, the purpose of the workshop is how to make money in the firewood business. And what we do is I go out and talk to you folks, and I take good notes, and I come back here and tell everybody how you're making money. So that's kind of what we're doing here. And there's plenty of room for folks to make money. Both NC State and the Wood Education Center has non-discrimination policies, and we follow them. And anybody that has a complaint against myself or Ed Chesa and this guy right here who's with the Forest Service, they all have bosses, and just report that we've messed up and we'll get better. Anyway, what we're doing in this session is talking about the business side of it. We can go back and forth and discuss. I'm going to talk for a half hour. Then Jeff Friedman with Lost Coast Forest Products and American Fiber. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah, American Wood Fiber.
American Wood Fiber. He's going to bring up the second half and talk about the Producers and Distributors Association and quality standards and how we're going to promote the industry and trends and things. But basically, what I see is agriculture, forestry, wood products are a very competitive business. There's a lot of people in it. It's usually fairly easy to get started. You can start out very humble with a chainsaw and a splitter, and off you go. So we're always having to think about competition, and we really have to think about our businesses to achieve our potential. And it's interesting, the firewood business is really a small family business for the most part, and by God, it's the family treasure. So we can't blow the opportunity to make money because our family needs the money, right? So we want to take advantage of what's out there and how to get ahead. So we have to realize there's a lot of focus on price. There's always somebody out there that can undercut you. But anytime you're in business, there's two things that's really important. One is the volume you do, and the other is the margin you do. And the combination of margin and volume determines the total amount of money that you're able to do. And you certainly understand that small volume specialty things like restaurant firewood has to have a lot higher profit margin than, say, a bundle firewood operation that's packing 5,000 bundles a day. So the volume and the specialty determines what kind of margin, and you've got to have a margin. What we've taught the American buyer today for everything is always challenge the price, right? Doesn't matter what price you're charging, you've got to flinch. It's too much, right? And see if you can get them down. Well, the trouble in firewood, you know, if you're making $50 a cord margin and somebody flinches and you cut it down $25, you just cut your profit margin in half. So we do have to be conscious on that. So whether we're doing the specialty wood, some bulk split wood, or some bagged wood, we got to make money off of it. We need to make money off of every stick of wood we touch.
Hey, Harry, sorry to interrupt, but do you have a hard number? I know it's kind of tough to apply it, but say like the cut split season wood, 30 margin acceptable in your experience?
I don't have, the question is, well, what's a good margin on green split wood? The answer is I don't know, because I think everybody is working on different margin. If I'm a small guy splitting with a single splitter, I think you're going to have a higher margin than you are for a volume guy. So it really depends on who you are, where you are, what market you're in. The green split market, you know, you think of that as being more of a rural market where somebody buys 5 cords, 3 cords, 2 cords, whereas the urban specialty market, they don't want green split wood. You know, they want it seasoned or they want it kiln dried. So one of the things that Neil talked about in his dry kill class is once you give them dried wood, they're spoiled. They don't want that old green wood. And it's kind of funny when you talk to people what's seasoned. There's people selling green wood calling it seasoned, right? So there we go. But one of the things, if you want to look at an example, is really what's happened to the lumber industry, especially the hardwood industry, over the last 30 years. Is we've gotten a lot more automated. We have companies in North Carolina and other places that cut woods like white oak, and they can cut 15,000 feet an hour with 30 people. And when they sort it, they don't have a big sorting line with 40 people pulling lumber off. They got drop sorters, so it's automated. So they have a grader that looks at every board, identifies the grade, and puts the mark on it. And they have in their electronic system a reader that reads that mark and determines where it goes in 60 sorts. So they're sorting for width, they're sorting for grade, they're sorting for length, but they're always trying to optimize each board. What's the best I can get out of this board? And it's based on where they can sell it. So what we're getting to in firewood is we're kind of getting the same place. You know, if you want to split firewood and sell it all as bulk, go for it. But if you want to optimize the value of all that wood, then you would split it up and you would see who's going to pay me the most for this, who's going to pay me the most for that. And we can do that. So it's one way to look at the business beyond just doing a bunch of bulk wood. So if we look at it, you know, you think about how can I flow? And flow is about once I pick up that log, I want to do everything to it that I can. I don't want to dump it on the ground, have to pick it up again, dump it on the ground, pick it up again. We really need to eliminate what we would call waits and delays and double handling. And if we're going to do our bagging operations, you know, we don't want to bag it, set it down, then pick it up and put it on a pallet and do all that. We just want to go ahead and get it done. So if we can look at automation, you know, you can find, especially on the used market as well as the new market, conveyors, rollers, belts, cyclones for sawdust. It doesn't make sense to dump a bunch of sawdust on the ground and you have to pay somebody an hour or two a day to go sweep it up, right? So all this stuff is challenging ourselves to make more money in firewood. We need to make the money. We've got investments. We have to be successful in our business. So grading firewood is something to think about. Did anybody catch Brian Madden's talk today on marketing firewood? Well, he's our guy from Cleveland, and he's selling boutique kiln-dried split wood for $700 a cord, but he's selling like a quarter cord and a half a cord. And he's doing a lot of social media. He's in an urban environment. People are buying small quantities. He does a lot of customer service, follow up, hold their hands, but he gets money from them. And I just learned this morning, if you've seen Don Alexander out there, that is the rack guy, Brian is one of his dealers. And when he sells somebody firewood, he asks them, do they need a rack to put it in? And when he does, he sells them Don's rack. He makes another sale. Some of these racks, you know, he'll make $100 off this rack. Well, how cool is that? You sold him the firewood and you sold him the rack. That's great, man. And that opportunity is there. There's lots of those opportunities that may be unique where you are and how you operate your business. I kind of like this idea myself. I think it's brilliant that you take a pallet and you support it so you can stack the wood on there, and now you don't ever have to handle it by hand. And you can do it with a nice forklift. You can go to loading docks. You can go to trucks. You can pack it into warehouses properly. So material handling is a big deal working with a bulky item like firewood. So we can, yes, you can be in the green split wood big pile business, and you can come up with your own grades. I happen to stick something up there, call it like grade 1, 2, and 3, where your pretty wood goes to the high-end customers that's paying the premium. Your B grade is kind of a medium grade, and the economy grade is for the guy that calls up that wants your absolute lowest price. You know, don't sell him the good stuff, right? If you're going to sell him something that matches up what he wants to pay. And if he's buying a lot of firewood and running the outdoor stoves or whatever, that price is his driving factor. What's his motivation? So you can think about grades and how things like that would work. Most of us are near a metro area, and the great thing about metro area, there's more buyers than sellers in a metro area. So there's plenty of people that can buy your wood. You also are getting into a supply place where you can get either free logs or low-cost logs. You can work with the arborist, and they'll tell you to come pick the logs up. So if you've got a truck with a grapple, you can go pick up logs for free, or they can come dump some logs. Now, if they dump logs at your place, a lot of those may not be that great of logs. Whereas if you go out and pick them up, you may pick and choose. You know, you get some of them out of the way. The arborists have learned that once the tree hits the ground, it's, you know, you're just wasting time. You really get paid for taking the tree down. So if I'm a arborist and I want to leverage my resources, I want to take more trees down than I deal with them on the ground. And most arborists are not necessarily wanting to be in the firewood business. Some of them can, some of them don't. But our interests drive what we do. So we have to figure out how to make money out of what we like to do. There are plenty of pretty wood buyers like restaurants, sometimes these outdoor fireplaces. But in the metro areas, you don't really have those outdoor stoves. And mainly because a lot of them smoke, and we just can't have a lot of smoke in metro areas. So if you look around, all of us in the firewood business typically have a metro area maybe within an hour's drive or less. So the rural folks tend to like the split wood or the seasoned wood. One of the things I like to talk about is pre-selling, and that is where you figure out in advance how much firewood you're going to produce and go sell it. Go find customers for it and then schedule delivery, even though you haven't produced it. Some people like to buy their wood in advance and season it themselves. Some people would rather you season it. And I'll get into an example here from Arkansas that I thought was brilliant what this guy figured out, and he did. I do know a guy that when he cuts longwood, for example, he charges more for that. So if his standard is 16 inches and somebody wants 30, that's an upcharge for that. So, you know, when you do things out of the ordinary, think about how can I get more money for that? You might say, well, shouldn't longwood be cheaper since anytime you do something odd, it costs money, right? So you need to get paid for it. And you can also look for buyers in the regional and national markets. When Jeff comes up and talks, he's a national seller of firewood, and he sells a lot of volume in the bundle heat market. And one thing you should do in today's workshop is go meet all the speakers, shake their hands, swap business cards, and because these are industry leaders in our industry, and we don't have too many events like this. Go ahead, Clint. Yeah, I'm getting ready. I got a slide for that, so I kind of jumped myself there a little bit. I live in a county with 150,000 people, and each year to heat the homes and maybe domestic hot water in Iredell County, North Carolina, we spend $80 million doing that in my county. So if I'm a firewood guy and I can switch somebody from petroleum energy for that to wood energy, I don't have to go out of the county. So you can always think about that as how many people can you help get off of fossil fuel to wood, and because that could be a local market for you. So the challenge for the homeowner is how do you pay for it? And most of them are interested in wood heat as long as it pays for itself fairly quickly. So wood stove systems is important. If you can do hot water in addition to space heating, that helps. So, you know, you want to do your part to help grow the industry. Now, Ernie the Wood Man is Huntersville, North Carolina. If you're ever in Charlotte go by to see Ernie. Ernie's like 85 years old. He has 3 businesses in one location. He's got firewood because he was a developer and he didn't want to pay to get rid of the logs. He figured he could make money off of firewood. He's right on a main road between Huntersville, Charlotte, Davidson, Cornelius. It has thousands of cars. So he has this big pile of wood and firewood for sale, and that's his marketing. He's got 3 guys that run single head splitters, and he's got conveyors. And his strategy, though it's not necessarily what I would do, is he just makes big piles of wood, and then he sells them out of the piles. He doesn't kill dry them, he doesn't air dry them, he only sells local. So the way he runs his business is he gets wood for the arborists and the developers for free. They come in with the dump trucks and trailer, drop it on the ground, and away they go. And then he has a guy go out with a chainsaw and blocks it up, and then he splits it and piles it. Well, what's unique about Ernie is he sells every stick of yellow pine firewood that he makes. And he's one of the few that I know that can do that. And where he sells it is he has convinced a base of customers that that's the wood you want for your outdoor fire pits. And the what do you call them, chimichinga stoves, those Mexican outdoor stoves on decks and things. So he has found a market for his pine, and he took the pine because the arborists wanted to get rid of it, right? So to make it easier for him to get the hardwood, he took the pine, and now he's got firewood sales all year round. And every year he sells out of the hardwood, and every year he sells out of the pine. And he's got 3 guys working splitters. One guy is the chainsaw bucker guy, and he has his 2 grandsons working for him. And the time to go see Ernie is lunchtime, because if he's doing some catering work and you're there, he'll feed you lunch. No, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know if he knows. I mean, Ernie is, when you're 85 years old, you don't worry about a lot of stuff. So he just lets it fly. He can tell you exactly what he sells, what his sales figures are, but as far as cords, I don't think he even keeps up with it. Preselling, this is Arkansas. I was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I went to see a company called Love Box, and it was a big pallet company, had 100 employees, and they buy sawmill cants, and then they use those to make their pallets. And what that does for you is it makes it, you're making to order in the pallet business. So you end up with a piece of firewood that is a piece of oak about 1 foot long, 4 by 6, 6 by 6, 8 by 8. It's a great stick of firewood. And he generated 2 dump truck loads a day of this stuff. So it's a waste product. And he decided what he would do is he would take a calendar, and he started contacting everybody he could think of that burned wood and say, do you want a dump truck load of firewood? And here's the price, and I'll come and I'll dump it in your yard or wherever you want me to. I won't stack it for you. It's dead green, so buy it a year ahead of time. But I'm making you a big deal and you get it all at once. So he started filling his calendar out. And since he did 2 loads a day, he's talking almost 500 dump truck loads a year. So what he did is, it didn't take very long, he filled it up. So he sold a year ahead of time worth of firewood. And when his guys came in every morning, there's 2 envelopes. 1 for each truck, and they're both going with the customer's name, and inside the envelope is an invoice. So that's pretty cool to me that he never let his waste wood hit the ground. It came out of his mill, went on the truck, went to the customer got invoiced. That's pretty darn smart. Well, we can do that in firewood too. You can sign people up in advance and put on, based on your production and what kind of wood it is, whether it's green or seasoned or kiln dried, you can sign people up and you can pre-sell your whole production. I thought that was brilliant, and I wanted to share it with you, and it applies for a lot of places. And say a restaurant, one of the discussions that came up today was the restaurant business was a pretty good business, right? Because it's consistent, it's year round. You know, you can estimate if you do a couple years worth of supplying firewood for these pizza restaurants and so forth, you can estimate what they're going to get, and you can negotiate with them. I mean, you could contract with them. You can write a contract that I'll supply you firewood for the next year, and here's the price, and here's the expected delivery. That you're the only one, and they may not use that much, but they're not going to buy it from anybody else. They'll buy it from you. So you could pre-sell your restaurant wood that way. I mean, I think that's a powerful way to run your business. Here's a couple photos. This is one I took at the Paul Bunyan show up in Ohio, which I believe is in October. This happens to be a Dana machine there. And this photograph is from West Virginia. This is a large one that went bankrupt twice. And I got hired to come up with a plan, and then the guy wouldn't follow the plan. It was funny. He was supposed to generate 4,000 bundles a day, and he did 3,000. And he was supposed to hire people that weren't related to him at one price, and he hired his relatives at a higher price. And then he paid more for propane than he was supposed to. And he ended up going out of business twice on it, which is, huh?
Window wide.
Yeah, if you got a plan and you don't follow the plan, you probably won't get the results the plan said. So in our bundle world, and Jeff is in that world and a great person to get to know. If you don't know Jeff Friedman in the back, he'll be up here next. And he is Mr. Bundled Firewood. But that's not the only option out there. It's very popular. It's very hot. We got a lot of people doing it. You got to have a dry kiln to do it. How about that?
Sounds good.
Yeah, so it's becoming really important. Urban people like it. It's a premium product and a premium market. And what we're seeing, though, is you're seeing a lot of summer sales now in the bundled firewood. A lot of people using the outdoor stoves and things. And what we're thinking in the future is we're going to get more diverse in the products that we make, kindling and so forth. One of the interesting things, if you ever look, the Forest Service has lots of publications on lumber and other things. That from 1980, they did a study. They went to 3 firewood processing, and they studied 750 logs going through the processor at 3 places, and they wrote a report on what they learned. And this is this is online. You could look at it. And Ed Chesa, who is here today with the Wood Education Center, is thinking about doing a new version of this. So hopefully I can get that job, and we can go visit a bunch of processors. This is the photograph of one of the processing operations from 1980. And this is the oldest photo I've seen of a wood processor, but it's a 2-stage system where one guy is at the log deck and he cuts the block, and it goes to the conveyor to the second guy that splits it. So, you know, we don't do it this way anymore, but there is a benefit to this. If you were to put a bunch of slop in between here with a turntable, as both of them could be more efficient when you put them like that than you do working them together. Because you end up a lot of times with engineering, you got weights and delays, and that's what we're trying to fix. Just a mention on air drying in firewood. In the local market, that's what a lot of it goes for. People do get very much confused what's firewood that's seasoned versus green. There's a lot of people out there that sell green wood and call it seasoned. One of the things that Neil covered is when it comes to firewood, the sapwood dries faster than the heartwood. That's because the heartwood is dead and those cells have closed off, and the water just doesn't flow through the heartwood like it does the sapwood. It's interesting, in the wintertime, we don't get a lot of drying. Once it gets below 60 degrees, wood doesn't dry a whole lot. So a lot of people say cut it in the fall, but really, if you cut it in the spring, it'll pretty much catch up into the fall if it's in a place that gets a lot of air circulation and no rain on it. So if you're selling the firewood, you got to be very accurate in whether it's green or seasoned or kiln dried. You really don't want the public getting confused. So all these options are available to our firewood. So the good idea is to think about is something like pre-selling your firewood. you know, if you're going to be a steady producer and you have confidence that you're going to make these production goals, you don't have to produce it and have it on hand to figure out how to sell it. You're gonna be there, and you have to figure out who's going to pay top dollar and why they're going to pay top dollar, and do they pay on time? Do they complain a lot? Because what you do in a business, you're forever replacing bad customers with good customers, and good customers are those that pay on time, don't complain, and want to pay more, right? So it's amazing. It's great to sell things, but if you don't have a profit margin, you're not doing it right. We always challenge ourselves to find logs, and one of the discussions we had today was about finding logs in both the rural and urban environments. And you can go from paying a lot for logs to paying nothing for logs, depending on where you are in the condition. You do want to review your operation to try to get some kind of a good steady flow, no waits, delays, no double handling. You know what you're making, know where it's going. One of the smartest things you can do, and some people here I've talked to today, is sharing expenses. If you're a sawmill, you've already got the set of scales. You probably already have a lot of the log handling equipment. You may have a wood boiler that can run a dry kiln. How about that? See? So it really makes a lot of sense business-wise to not start from scratching firewood, but put it on with something else. And it may be you can partner with somebody else. If you go to the sawmill, it may be you can come up with a contract agreement where you're going to produce firewood and they're going to do such and such, and it may be a way to get into the business. One of the things you find out in business is you need some kind of an advantage to be successful. You don't want to have to incur the full cost if you can share the cost. So you do have to figure out what your cost of production is and make sure you make money on everything you sell, and that's our challenge. So in conclusion, good management makes all the difference for a firewood operation. Sit down and make it work on paper first. If you can't make it work out on paper, it's probably not going to work out on the field very well. If you look at each piece of firewood, who really wants that, who's value it, you just want to make sure that if you're getting that to somebody that can value what it's worth and pay it. And do have a crew. A lot of people do pay sort of on the incentive in the wood industry. So many board feet, so many cords. There's nothing wrong with setting up an incentive pay system, and so the crew can make all the money that's to their full potential, and you make yours too. That's my part. Any questions or comments?